Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I was thinking about Black Love, and I was thinking about some of the things that I saw on the Black Love channel. I was reading some of the comments about one of the videos that we put up recently. Alicia and I like to share some of what's going on in our relationship, really, really for young people to kind of give them examples of what it looks like when a black man is perfectly in love with a black woman. When you have a black family that's not full of chaos and dysfunction and people trying to kick each other's butt, but really actually showing love for each other. And so anyway, so we share some of this, right? And the most fascinating thing popped up. I saw a lot of really favorable remarks. I saw a lot of people that were super supportive and super excited about it, stuff like that. And then I saw some people that really were really interesting. I didn't know that some of these people existed, and the people that I saw male and female. This wasn't just gender specific. I saw one woman, and there was a few others, but this is one that sticks out to me. One woman who was absolutely convinced that I must be pretending. One woman who was absolutely sure that deep down I was a terrible black man who was lying and pretending to love a black woman when really I don't. And if I really cared about her, I wouldn't have waited this long to marry her. And he's just using you. And it was really interesting. I was like, wow. And and then I would see men. I saw a couple of men that would say things like, "Oh, he's just simping. He's simping," and I was like, "Simping? Like, what do you mean simping? I don't like what And they would basically, I guess, reference like, "Oh, she had you in the friend zone," or "Oh, she only wants you for your money," or "Oh, and so what I thought about was it made me think about the toxicity that exists in so many of our love interactions. And the reason I felt it was important to talk about this is because they say you can tell the status of a community by how it treats its women. Now, is that scientifically proven? Nobody knows, but I do believe that's true. Because women are the source of reproduction. That's where your children come from. That's where your future generations come from. And y'all just shitting out some really shitty kids. I mean, some of y'all, not all of y'all, not everybody, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, if you ever watch like Maury Povich, I was watching an episode of Maury Povich, and I saw a baby like 4 years old, and her mama was there trying to figure out who the daddy was. And the guy that they suspected was the daddy was this really evil, mean dude who was like, "That ain't my baby. F that baby. That ain't my baby." Even if it ain't your baby, like, be a fucking man and like, like, don't like traumatize this poor little child because you don't keep account of where you put your dick. Like, seriously, like stop that. Like, and they had him on the phone with the baby, and he hung up on the baby girl, which I can't imagine how that must have broke that little girl's heart. So the mother's there, again, and also remember, it's two-way street, right? She don't know who's been in her stuff, right? She don't know who the daddy is. So, and then her mama was there. She's there with her mama. Check this out. This fits every ugly stereotype that you can imagine when it comes to our people. So she's there with her mama, who's this big obese lady who's like a big bully. She looked like Depot or Big Worm. She reminded me of Big Worm on Friday. And so Big Worm, her mama, Big Worm comes in, and she's like, "You are the daddy. You better come and take responsibility for this baby." Da, da, da. And then Maury says, "Well, who's performing the role of the father?" And the mother, Big Worm, she said, "I'm the daddy. I'm doing the role of the father." And I just thought about that, and it was some sick, chaotic stuff. Like, I wanted to pull out my phone and record it because I said, I can't believe this, right? So, not to say that this was reflective of most of our relationships. I hope you don't have a relationship like that, but you can't pretend like you haven't seen that, right? A lot of us have seen the dysfunction. A lot of us have seen the chaos that can occur in some of our families. And we grow up thinking this stuff is normal. And then white supremacy makes it worse because white supremacy makes you think that if you black, you're supposed to be either taking something up your butt if you're a man, or you're supposed to be dating a white woman, or you're supposed to be single and living your best life. Like, you ever anybody notice that in media when white people portray black relationships as either a single parent or somebody dating a white boy or a white woman, or somebody who just wants to take it up the butt, you know, and or a woman who just don't want nothing to do with men, who's empowering herself by dating women her whole entire life. So anyway, when I saw some of the comments, you know, in the blacklovechannel.com, that's the URL for the site where, you know, Alicia and I put up a YouTube channel, and we literally did a little reality series, because I was like, some of these young people don't even know what a healthy relationship looks like. They don't even know that you can actually love somebody without it being um chaotic. That you can actually have a relationship where you ain't going through life with a trail of bitterness, where you got all these baby daddies that you pissed off at who ain't taking care of their kids, all these baby mamas where you think bitches ain't shit, hoes ain't shit. Because you see this a lot online. You see a lot of men are just punks. Like, you see a lot of men that are just like, oh, these women ain't shit. They all they want is your money. All they just, I mean, don't get me wrong. I get it. I get a lot of that, in the sense that, you know, we all know that there's some terrible people out here on both sides of the equation. I've seen, believe me, when you're famous, so to speak. I'm not saying I'm not a celebrity. I'm not pretending to be that, but I do go places around the world and people recognize me, and I've had lots of women approach me, you know, I've been very selective my whole entire life, and you see that, right? You see the women that just want access to money or clout or whatever, right? It's part of the game. And some of the women are not, or some of them are more shallow than others. But when you see sort of this blanket condemnation of the black woman, like, I find that to be really disturbing. You know, the fact that there are entire platforms built off of just bashing black women should make you ashamed. Like, again, you know, I don't get it, because remember, you're talking about your survival here. You're talking about, you know, the black women are the keys to your survival. If black women don't have your baby, then you have no legacy. Your DNA will cease to exist. And I think that as we are honest with ourselves about how we feel, and dealing with, you know, the things that have traumatized us, the things that have hurt our feelings, we have to understand the balance of just kind of knowing that there has to be, you got to temper that shit. Like, you got to know how to distinguish. You know, I mean, I don't think I'm gonna tell you what. A lady came and did some stuff at our house, and we talked to her for a while. Then she left, and she told one of her friends. She didn't know that her friend knew me. And her friend said, "Yeah, she told me that she met you, and she was really surprised." I said, "What was she surprised by?" She said she was surprised that you were so nice. And I said, "Why would you be surprised that I'm nice? I'm a nice person." And she said, "Because she heard that you hate black women." And I was like, where did she get that bullshit from? Like, I don't hate black women, you know. And basically, it comes from the divisive, politicized world that we live in. And there are some people who think that if you disagree with one black woman, that you hate all black women. That because I'm annoyed with that one woman over there, I must hate every woman I've ever met. You know, and I find that hilarious, and I know that happened when I had this thing. I don't know if you guys, some of you remember, some of you don't. I had a thing with Lizzo where I actually said I don't think Lizzo should be promoting obesity, you know, for whoever's paying her bills, whoever her slave master is, whatever record label is giving her money to promote obesity as body positivity, they need to stop, because lots of our people are dying from obesity. Lots of our people are dying from diabetes. Lots of our people are dying from strokes and heart attacks, much more so than the virus, right? And everybody got mad. Not everybody, a lot of people got mad because they said, "Oh, you're attacking a black woman. You must hate all black women." And I said, "No, I'm actually helping a black woman, and I'm helping black women in general, because I'm being the counter voice to say that Lizzo is probably talented enough that she could probably make a lot of money without becoming a human minstrel show. I think she deserves better than that. I think our community deserves better than that. When you tell them to scarf down as much Popeye's chicken as possible, but then 3 months later 3 months later, just 3 months later, they're all like, boo-hoo, black people are dying from COVID. Well, why? What do you think of the leading causes of death from the virus? Obesity, diabetes, all the things that you got mad at me for speaking out on, all the things you were promoting. So that's what this system does that makes you crazy and stupid. They will promote death in the front door and then try to resuscitate you in the back door. They will sell you the unhealthy fatty food at the front of the grocery store and then sell you diabetes medication in the back of the grocery store. So they make money off you when you coming in the store, and they making money off you when you walking out the back of the store. And so what I'm just trying to say to you is that, speaking on just in terms of the gender war between black men and black women that some people participate in, um, if you're participating in that too much, you're kind of like acting like a Klansman. Except the difference between a man who hates all black women and a Klansman is that you do actually do more damage than a Klansman ever could. Because you're killing from the inside. You're an internal enemy. They are sleeping with the enemy. So that enemy you're sleeping with can murder you in your sleep. Whereas the enemy that's outside your house, you can defend yourself against that. So you can defend yourself against the Klan. I don't know any black people who've been killed by the Klan, but I know plenty of black women whose souls have been murdered by a black man. I know plenty of black men whose souls have been murdered by a black woman. And I think that when we talk about racism and white supremacy, we got to go deeper than that. Instead of just talking about what white people did to you last Tuesday, we need to also talk about what a black person did to you last Thursday. Instead of just talking about what the Proud Boys did in Washington, D.C., I want to hear what the homeboys did, in downtown Philly. I want to hear I don't want to just hear what white people are doing to oppress you. I want to hear what other black people are doing to oppress you. And I'm gonna tell you what, I know a lot of men and women who are just damaged souls, almost like zombies out here. Zombies because they have been hurt by people in their own race, maybe starting with their mother. A lot of the men, for example, when you go online and you see a lot of men who just really love bashing black women on a large systematic basis, like on a Joe Biden type level, like where they're just like black women ain't shit and blah 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 blah. A lot of these men are just hurt little bitches. That's what they are. I mean, seriously, a lot of them are mad at their mothers. Many of them got the wrong woman pregnant. They got some hood rat pregnant, and she took all his money. So now he thinks all black women are gold digging hood rats. They've been victimized by black exploitation in music. Where you had for 20 years, 25 years, you had rappers telling you that women ain't shit, you know, and whatever, and that you need to pimp these hoes to prove you a man and all this other stuff. And they think that that's manhood because they never learned manhood. A lot of them never had a father. Not a lot of them never ever grew up. Pay attention now. Listen, are you listening to me? Give me a yes if you hear what I'm saying. A lot of these men, like when you see these men that just like can't say nothing good about a black woman, check how many of these men actually had a father that was married to their mother for a long period of time. Check how many of these men actually grew up watching a black man love a black woman in a proper way. Most of them didn't see that. Most of them didn't see that. And so my like my dad is a very tough man. He's a Vietnam veteran. He overcame when he came back from Nam, he had a heroin addiction. He kicked it. He kicked it. And he ain't no punk. He's killed people. He's done what he had to do to survive. He's a man that doesn't believe in making excuses. He believes in personal responsibility, and he protects his family. I saw that growing up, and I also saw him be incredibly protective and tender toward my mother, in a way that was just beautiful to watch. I watched this for 40 something years, you know, and that became a blueprint in terms of saying, when you pick that woman and you love her, then that's like your prize. Like you defend that, you protect that. Then that's a natural thing. Like that's supposed to be what's built inside of you as a fucking man. Like you're supposed to have that in you that says, you're carrying my young, you're carrying my children. You gave me these babies. I will kill somebody if they try to hurt you. I'm not gonna run right here trying to destroy and victimize you. Like I want to make sure that you're good. And I'm gonna let the whole world know that you are spoken for and you are protected. And again, when I say this is natural, let me explain why this is natural and why that little bitch boy stuff that you see online, like men, like these black women, they just terrible. They gold diggers. They this, they that. It doesn't mean gold diggers don't exist. Gold diggers are out there. We know this. But why don't you pick a woman who's not a gold digger? You know, we know that trifling ass women exist for sure. There's no question. I'm not here to defend trifling people. I don't do that. But why don't you pick a woman who's not trifling? Why are you chasing the hoes? And they get mad because hoes are gonna be hoes. Willie D. Willie D's a friend of mine from the Ghetto Boys. Willie D told you a long time ago, let a hoe be a hoe, right? So whatever, like let her be. You know, I met hoes. I've seen them. I know what you're talking about, and I let hoes be hoes. I don't judge them. I just don't marry them. I don't try to bring. I don't have kids with them. I keep track of where I put my seed. And when I tell you, and this is just me being honest with you, I just had a moment of reflection and clarity that I just had to kind of share in a conversation. I hope that's okay. I hope it's okay if I'm just honest with you because I'm not being Dr. Boyce at all. I'm just being a man right now. Um, you know, but when I tell you that it should be in your DNA, like this is important because a lot of men don't get this. A lot of men, you know, again, white supremacy did this to you. They make you think like men and women are the same, and that women don't need protection from men, and that you can just go get three women pregnant, and then they just gonna be all right. They're gonna take care of themselves. Well, you know, and that's nonsense to me. And let me tell you why it's built. Why the male protective instinct is supposed to be built in you. Has anybody ever heard my story of the Gangster Goose? Give me a yes or no if you heard my story about the Gangster Goose I met. Um, and I have to tell this story because it really taught me about human nature and how some of us get trained to move away from our nature. Black people, you've been trained to leave your nature behind. You know, give me a yes or no if you've heard my Gangster Goose story. I want to make sure I'm not because I told it before, but I love this story because I think it just hits the nail on the fucking head so well. Give me a yes or no if you heard my Gangster Goose story. Okay. Wanda says she has heard it. Okay. I see some no. I see a few people saying no. Okay. All right. So let me tell you my Gangster Goose story. If you heard it before, please bear with me. I gotta tell the story as much as possible because I think this shit just breaks it all down so well for us. So me and Alicia were out running one day. You know, y'all know I used to be fat, and I used to try, and I was getting high blood pressure and all the other shit. So I said, no, I'm not going out like that. So I let Alicia make me go running every 2 days so that I don't die, you know, from like being stubborn. So we're out running on this path, and I don't enjoy running, but I do it anyway because I don't want to die. And we're running along this path, and in the middle of the path, there's this goose, and it's like okay, it's just a little bird. Like okay, who cares, right? Like you just run around or you run toward the bird. Birds fly away, right? But this goose didn't do that. This goose stood his ground, right? He like dug his heels in. And I'm like, why doesn't this goose move out of the way? So I'm like, okay, well, let's just run around it. So I try to go to the right, and the goose moves to the he moves to the right and blocks me, right? And I'm like, okay, all right, well, this is weird. All right, so I go to the left. He moves to the left and blocks me. So I'm like, okay, why is this goose blocking my path? Like, this is getting a little weird. And then I move closer to him, and he hears the rocks kind of shuffling under my feet as I'm moving toward him. And he like his wings like flop up, like almost like real sharp, like razor blades, like he was like on high alert. Like he was like, okay, I'm about to fight you. And I'm like, is this goose like trying to fight me? Like, what's about to happen right now? So I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna get punked by no goose. So I just, I'm like, okay, come on, Alicia, let's just run past. We took another step, and the goose's neck got real long, like to where he suddenly went from being like 3 feet tall to 5 feet tall. Like it was like straight up like Nature Channel, Mother Nature, Discovery Channel, like defense mechanism type shit. Where this goose was ready to fight me. I'm the only motherfucker in the street in the road, so the goose is apparently ready to fight me because I'm apparently some sort of threat to him. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, what is going on right now? So I'm relaying in my brain. I'm literally ready to do a Google search. Like, okay, do geese have some secret ability to kill people or pluck your eyes out? Like, how do goose fight? Because animals are funny. Animals have stuff up their sleeve that you don't know about. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, what kind of a threat could this goose actually become? And so I'm sitting there thinking, Like, what? I'm about to throw down with this goose, and I do not know why. And then I looked to the side, and you know what I saw? I saw a female goose that was sitting there on top of some eggs. And literally, she had no idea this was going on. She had no idea her husband was about to go down on some gangster shit. She had no idea of the chaos that was taking place behind her. She did not have a care in the world. She's just sitting there, looking out toward the water, like nursing her babies and like waiting till the eggs hatch. And then I looked at it and I just laughed. I said, okay, I get it, man. All right, I understand. Okay, we understand each other now. Okay, you protecting your woman and you protecting your children. I get that. I respect that. So because I respect that, I'm gonna go run the other way. I'm not gonna fuck with you no more. Right. And here's why this story just fascinated me so much. Nobody taught the goose to protect his woman. Like he didn't go to college to learn how to be a man. Nobody said to him, here, read this book. This is what male geese are supposed to do when the female geese, are giving birth to the young. Like nobody taught him this except God, maybe. Like he just knew how to do it. It was instinctual. It was in his DNA. He just naturally knew my job as the man. Now, mind you, I wasn't out there about to fight with the woman. I was about to fight the man. I wasn't fighting the woman talking about I'm the mother and the father. I deserve a Father's Day card because I'm the father. I'm the man up in this bitch. I got the biggest balls in this house. Right? You didn't know. The mother wasn't trying to fight me. It was the father. This right there told me so much about the nature of man. And the fact that we have been denatured in so many ways in terms of how they have screwed up our families and screwed up our community. They got the women thinking that they're the men, and they got the men acting like the women, and the women are not protected, and the men are feeling preyed upon, and whatever, and everybody's losing their damn mind. you know and so what that really said to me is, at least in the world of geese, that this male goose understood what his job was. And also, it was like interesting because it was like basically he was saying, look, baby, I got this. I'm gonna go out and I'm going to protect the family. I'm gonna get us what we need. You don't have a care in the world. So when I hear a man say something like, you know what, I don't want my wife to work. I want my wife to do her job, which is, she has the kids, she takes care of the household. I want her to be able to do these things without having all the stressors of the world thrust upon her. I don't want her to have to figure out how to defend and protect the house and provide for the house while she's also trying to nurture the house. It doesn't mean that women can't go to work and do all the things women do. I mean, we know that's silly, right? We can't go backward. But it does say something about the value of traditionalism, right? It says something about the value of gender roles, and at least not sort of acting like these things are bad, right? Because again, I go back to what you see in media. In media, when they get around to black love and relationships, you would think, based on what you see in media, that that every black woman is happy, is single and happy, like all the single ladies, all the right, like literally, like every black woman wants to be single and happy, and the black men are single and living free, and that's the high life, like that's the superior life, right? Like being part of a family, fuck that. Like I just want to be free and just run around and do whatever I want. You would also think that every black woman wants to go chase up behind a white man, like on Scandal, where she literally was like, I don't want to be a black man's wife, I'd rather be a white man's hoe. Right? Seriously, she was literally the mistress for the president. And people really took pride in that. Like they were like, "Oh, go girl, you succeeding, girl." And that that's not success when it comes to survival. That's called imperialism. That's colonialism. Like that's like slave master shit. Like you haven't. That's not progress. You're literally just reiterating Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings, right? So. And the third thing that they show you a lot of is they make you think every black man wants to take it up the butt, and every black woman wants to be with another woman. Like literally, like they will make you think. And it's okay for people to be who they're going to be, right? We know that different lifestyles and choices exist. And I'm a big believer in freedom. I'm a huge believer in freedom. But there's a thing about media where they'll take something that happens very rarely and make you think that it happens all the time. Like they'll take something that it literally exists in 1% of the population or 2%, and they'll make you think it's like 50%. Like they'll really have you thinking everybody's doing this and that there's something wrong with you when you're a black woman who says, no, I just want to marry a black woman, a black man, a decent black man who's going to help me to raise a black family and build my section of the black community. Like they make you think that you're the weirdo. Or when you're a black man who says, no, I don't want to be pimping hoes. I don't want to take it up the butt. I don't want to go marry a white woman. I just want to find me a real quality black woman who can cook me some grits, who got a little curve on her booty, who might or might not have a college degree, but who can help me become a better man, who is not going to destroy my children, who's going to give birth to my children and raise them well, and protect and defend my legacy, and not embarrass me in front of my colleagues or my boss or my business partners. Seriously, like that's normal shit. Like that's really normal, and I really think that we need to kind of process what gets done, the rope-a-dope, the relationship rope-a-dope that gets done to black people, and process that against what we see in the world. If you look at other cultures, excluding those Europeans who've made you slaves for the last 400 years, let's put those to the side. If you look at other cultures, you look at African culture, you look at Asian culture, you look at Latino culture. Most other cultures kind of have a type of stability that we don't really have in the United States. They're not so quick to believe that 80% of all men want to take it up the butt. They're not so quick to believe that a man who just simply decides he wants to be a woman can suddenly go compete in women's sports and crack women's heads open like that lady did. And did y'all see that? I don't know if y'all saw that in MMA, where there was a lady who, a guy who said, I identify as a woman, and they let him become an M or her or them. I don't know what pronoun to use. I failed English class, so I didn't know what a pronoun was till I was about 30. But this person who decided he wanted to be a woman, I swear to God, look it up. She goes into MMA, and they're like, oh, well, gender is just a figment of your imagination. If she wants to be a woman, we're gonna let her be. Okay, fine. All right, cool. I ain't judging. But you might want to reconsider that policy when it comes to MMA fighters, because that's a physical, violent sport. And this lady goes into the ring, or this guy, person, I don't know what I don't want to offend nobody, so pick whatever pronoun you want, goes into the ring with a woman and cracks her skull, like breaks her skull. Like, I know about a broken arm, broken leg. I didn't know you could survive a broken skull. Did y'all know that? I didn't know. I thought if somebody breaks your skull, that pretty much means you're dead. So I'm not laughing, but it's insanity. It's insanity. That's what I'm saying. I'm pointing out the insanity, and I'm trying to talk to the same people in the room, the people who see something wrong with this. If you look at other cultures, again, I'm pointing specifically to African, Asian, and Hispanic. You don't see them believing that 80% of all men want to take it up the butt, or 50%, or whatever. You don't see them convinced that most women want to sleep with other women and be with another woman over men. Doesn't mean they don't have LGBT. Just means that they don't that doesn't become the cornerstone of their fucking community. Um, they don't believe that most people in their culture want to date people outside their race. No, they tend to stick to their own. They just do, right? Asian people tend to marry Asian people. Africans, get with Africans, etc. And they also don't tend to believe that a 45, 50-year-old person who's running around bragging about how they've been single their whole life is a person who has achieved the good, is living their best life. They don't believe that. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, and I'm not saying this is not dissing people who are single over a certain age. I don't care what you do with your life. I mean, that's what you choose to do. That's your right. But but I'm gonna tell you like this. I have a friend that is from Africa, a part of Africa, Botswana, and she said literally, this was interesting. I'd never heard this. She said that if a man is not married and isn't taking care of a wife and children, he does not get the respect of a real man. That the other men won't even really take him seriously. Other men will look at him like, well, you still a boy. Like you out here just trying to plant your penis in every woman that walks by. Like that's not you ain't no man. I mean, don't mean you don't still do, certain whatever men do, right? That doesn't mean they judge that one way or the other, right? Because we know every culture kind of has its how can I say, nuances when it comes to relationships. Let's just say that, right? We're not here to pretend like African marriage is perfect and blissful, because that would be a lie too. But they kind of understand that there's something about manhood that comes with taking on responsibility and being okay with that. When you have people, a man that's 40, 50 years old who says, I don't want responsibility for anything or anybody, or you look at a woman and she, and you notice that she expects you to have a certain degree of financial accomplishment, and you turn and you say, bitch, well, what you bringing to the table? What kind of money you ain't bringing no money to the table, right? That kind of says that that person might have a distorted perception of what gender roles actually represent. When I told you the story earlier about the Gangster Goose who was ready to fight me because he wanted to protect his woman, the Gangster Goose, you know, I don't think he looked at his woman and said, well, I just took on a grown ass black man, to protect the family. Are you willing to do that? Are you able to fight a man? Because the female goose probably doesn't fight as well as the male goose. The female goose is built differently from the male goose. Like they have different roles in the process. Like she didn't look at him and say, well, nigga, can you lay some eggs? Right? She didn't do that. No, she understood, like I'm the female. I lay the eggs. I sit on the eggs, not you, right? So I think that when I see people the way some of our folks talk about relationships, it tells me that a lot of our people really just need help. And that's the thing. Like a lot of our people need help. Like let's just keep it 100. You got some real sick, traumatized, zombie ass people out here, and they are infecting other people with whatever virus they have. Some of it are actually STDs, actual real STDs, but also psychological STDs. You have people that have emotional STDs, and they are super spreaders of their emotional STDs. You have men that never got over the fact that they're mad because their mama was a crackhead, so they go through life thinking women ain't shit. And their favorite rapper has enforced this mindset to tell them women ain't shit, that a woman can never have a high value in your life, and that if she does have a high value in your life, then that officially makes you a simp. So you end up going around basically infecting and traumatizing one woman after another, because you go around making promises that you never keep, which because you're a punk, you never take on any responsibility. When she shows up and she has a child with her, you look at that and you say, why the fuck would I want to be with a woman with kids? Oh God, kids are a fucking nuisance. Fuck those goddamn kids, right? And then you say that in front of the children. So the children are growing up as fucked up as you are, because the first adults that they interacted with were terrible, miserable, hateful, selfish people who didn't understand that that is a fucking child. And when you're talking to a child, you should consider the emotions and the feelings of that child. I can tell you this. My daddy, apparently my daddy was a simp, because my daddy married my mama when I was 3. And when he married her. My daddy was a good looking man. He had women chasing him up and down the street. He was a very masculine type of man. And but he believed in family. He grew up in a family, and he wanted family. And so my daddy got with my mother because he thought she was cute. He was 20 years old, so he probably just, thought she had a nice booty or something. I don't know what, whatever people goes through people's minds. And then he got to know her as a person and started to like her as a person. So he decided he wanted to be in love. Well, he had to deal with people that looked at him and said, you a simp. Like, why would you take care of this little? Now that was me. I was the baby. Why would you take care of this damn raggedy ass baby that is some other man's baby? Like, why would you take that on? There's plenty of women out here you could be with that ain't got no kids. Fuck that little kid, right? Well, the thing was, I was that little kid, and I'm gonna tell you, in my eyes, when my father would take me places, I felt like I was with my father. When I would meet his friends and his family, I had nothing in me that it would have expected at 4 years old that I would be treated badly just because my biological father didn't, stick around. I wasn't a bastard. I was a human being, and so when I think about that, and I think about the courage that that man had to basically say fuck the world, like fuck all of y'all. Like, no, this is my son. I love this kid like he's my son, and I'm proud to have a son. That saved me. That saved me, because if I had gone through this where everybody is kicking me around and treat me like crap because apparently I'm now worthless because I have a mother who's where the man who impregnated her chose not to stick around, like that would have devastated me, right? So what I'm saying to you is that, some of this talk, like when people talk about a woman with children as if the children are just these worthless little bullshit obligations that have no value, you don't love Black people at all. This is the future of our community. These children, many of whom don't have a daddy in the house, it is what it is. They're going to grow up one day. This is going to be the future of the Black community. So you can't say you love Black people and they'll go shitting on Black children at every available opportunity. You can't say you love Black people when you are dismissing and abandoning other people, other members of your community at every chance you get. The ability, and I'm not telling you to go get with a woman that's got kids. I'm not saying you should do all that. I'm not telling you what to do with your life, but be careful about how you address that. Children are a blessing. There's no job on the planet more important than the job of the mother. If mothers all stop doing their jobs, then our whole society will fall apart. So let's just be clear about that. Can we get a yes or no in the chat if you agree with me on at least that point? That if mothers stopped raising children properly, we would have a whole society full of serial killers and crazy people who, just literally don't know what to do with themselves, right? Mothers, so that job of a mother is very important, whether we want to accept that or not. So, and even if you're a single mother, that job is important. Like, so stop that nonsense about sort of that single mothers deserve to be disrespected and all that. No, that's not true. Now, this does not mean though that some care and caution needs to be taken when you talk about who you choose to lay down with and who you choose to procreate with. So this is not letting people off the hook for bad choices now, right? There's better ways to do everything. But with that being said, you know, I think that when it became very disturbing to me when I would hear other Black men legitimize this idea that says that women who have children are not dateable, they're not marryable, they are the inferior selection solely because they have children. Because what I will tell you is this: there's a lot of raggedy hoes I've seen. I'm talking about really ratchet ass, pathetic ass, shallow ass, horrible, toxic women who ain't got no kids. And she is not superior to a good woman just because she's never had a child and the other woman has. I mean, let's just be real for real. Some of the women that get in their 30s and 40s ain't never had no kids and whatever. Some of these women can't have children because they've been with so many men that their wombs have rotted out and they've had to have their uteruses removed or whatever. I'm just telling you the truth. Like, this is not, if anybody's in that category, I'm not in any way trying to hurt your feelings. So don't think I'm doing that. But I'm telling you the truth. So what I'm saying to you is that this idea that somehow having a child makes a woman in an inferior selection is fundamentally wrong. What is true is that being with a woman with a child does require a different measure of calculation in terms of whether or not that's a fit for you. When you bring a woman into your life that has children, those children are going to be there, right? And so if you're a guy looking for a quick piece of ass and you think you can go over there and show up and have sex with the mama and then ignore her when she says, my baby's hungry, can you get my baby a Happy Meal? Well, no, I ain't paying for that bitch's kids. I ain't gonna pay that's some weird stuff. Like, even if you are chasing ass, like even if you're like looking for like, like that 2 week vagina chase or whatever, like whatever, I don't care. I'm not judging booty calls, right? Even if you are going to get a booty call, just know that getting a booty call from a woman with children is different from getting a booty call from a woman with no kids. um and that it makes you look kind of weird and pathetic if you are like I'm not gonna go, and I'm insulted because she asked me to spend $5 to buy her baby a Happy Meal. That's a gold digger. No, $5 ain't gold. The price of gold is much higher than $5. So she ain't digging for gold. She digging for Happy Meals. So you can buy the damn cheeseburger so you can get on to getting the sex that you're looking for. Like seriously, like if you're that much like again, this is where men versus boys comes into play. I am a believer in freedom. Let's keep this. Let's be clear about this. I want to make this 100% clear. This is the bias I have on. At some point, I'm gonna say something that's gonna piss everyone off that's listening to me. That's just what I do. That's why I have no friends, and I'm proud of that. But but I have to be honest. I don't want friends because my friend is the truth. And so here's the deal. When you talk about men versus boys, even a grown man who's on a booty call, if you say, get my baby a Happy Meal so that I can have something to give the babysitter so that we can go off and have sex, a grown man will show up with the damn Happy Meal so he can at least get it on. He's not going to be like, nah, you asking me to feed your kids. You asked me to, ain't nobody got no Happy Meal money. I don't, what? Are you kidding me? Like this is a real example because I saw a video like that where a guy, these guys were explaining, like there was a mother who said something like, and again, the whole conversation was trifling. We did a whole video about it, but there was a mother who said that she was about to go get with a man or go out with a man, and she said, "Hey, can we stop at McDonald's and get something for my kids real quick?" And he said no. He said so when they placed the order, he wouldn't pay for the food. She said, I knew right then he wasn't gonna get no pussy. Now, mind you, I find it quite disturbing that you'll take something as valuable as a black woman's womb and you're trading it for a Happy Meal. Like literally, his decision to buy the Happy Meal for your child would have been a determining factor in whether or not you have sex with him. That right there says you need some help in decision making. Like like your womb should not be sold for a Happy Meal, 2 Scooby snacks, and a can of root beer. Like that's not like right there. We got to have a self-esteem conversation with the woman, but with the man, my conversation with him would be a little different. It would be like, okay, like why didn't you buy the Happy Meal? Like she's giving it up for a Happy Meal. Like if that's what you want, like if that's what you're really sitting here complaining to me because you didn't want to spend $5.42 for a Happy Meal. Like what damage has been done to you or whatever, like I don't get that. So here's what I'm getting at, right? Is that a lot of your conversations about relationships are so stupid and juvenile and ignorant. And the worst and most juvenile ignorant aspect of this is that some of these conversations are being had by guys, men and women in their 40s and 50s. That's the crazy part. Like this ain't it'd be different. These were 22-year-olds saying these things. I know how to ignore, some of what seriously, I'm telling you, if you're 22 and you're in the room, just listen. Like I'll listen to you when we talk, but listen because you don't know nothing yet. I don't want to be mean to you, but you're 22. I didn't know nothing when I was 22. I thought I knew everything though, because when I was 22, I only knew how to compare 22 to 21. I only knew I thought I was old when I was 22. You're not old. So just sit back and listen, because you got a lot you got to figure out, right? So if a 22-year-old says something silly like that, then I kind of laugh it off. But when I see 35, 40, 45, 50-year-old people having conversations that sound like they're coming out of the mouths of teenagers, that's when I kind of get concerned. And let me tell you what's happened to the black man. Let me tell you what the dominance, the white man's dominance over you has done to you. Good. Okay, I see Jill says I'm 27. I see a 25-year-old in here. Say Nothing says I'm 30. I think that's great. I think that's so great. You guys are gaining so much by hearing some perspectives. And I want to make it clear, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just trying to give you a point of view. And just if you will just at least consider the point of view as you make your decisions, then that's all I need. I don't need you to agree with me. I don't need you to do what I tell you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I want you to be informed enough to make good decisions. So give me a yes if you can take it in love. If I can say things that might piss you off and we can still love each other at the end of the conversation, just give me a confirmation yes. Because when I have these real honest conversations about the things that I've seen as a black man, sometimes it hurts people's feelings so much and they get so offended that we can't talk anymore. And I don't want to hurt your feelings. Or so just give me a yes so that we can say this and still love each other at the end of the discussion. Okay. So here's what the deal is, right? First of all, I'm not a purist. Like I'm not real happy when I hear that people will reduce a man to nothingness because he had an affair or really or whatever, he cheated or whatever. Like, I'm not into that, because I've seen marriages that last 40, 50 years that had all kinds of chaos that occurred, but for whatever reason they chose to stay married, for good or bad reasons, whatever their choices were, right? Some people may agree, some people don't, but it's their decision to make. But also I'm not a purist in the sense of believing that men should be like, when Ti said he was checking his daughter's hymen. I thought that was a little weird. I don't think a man should be that obsessed with his daughter's vagina. I didn't even know what a hymen was, and once I found out what it was, I don't really spend 1 second of any given day thinking about the hymen of my daughters that are in my house. I think if I spent too much time thinking about that on any level, that would probably make me a little bit suspect and weird, right? So I think that there are some things that you might hear from a purist standpoint that I think are fundamentally incorrect. I think that, for example, with the Ti, again, with Ti, my feelings on that are kind of nuanced. Like, Ti is my favorite rapper. I think he's done a lot of great things for the Black community. I honor and admire him as a strong father figure, and he has a Black family, and he's had this thing going for a long time. I think that's great, but I don't agree with checking your daughter's hymen. I also think that there is a weird hypocrisy that occurs when you spent a lot of years rapping in a way that could be deemed to be disrespectful toward women, but then suddenly you're super protective of your daughters because you don't want your daughters to be um, one of the women that you were doing only God knows what with in a hotel room, right? Remember, every time you got in a room with 3 or 4 women and y'all were doing whatever grown people do in those situations, that was somebody's daughter in there, right? And I think that that's what we kind of do, is that we forget that this is somebody's daughter, and that there's a way to kind of approach the freedom of sexuality in a way that doesn't have to be overtly demeaning and disrespectful. Okay, so with that said, what happens here with hip hop, and this is where a lot of you young people, some of y'all aren't old enough to remember when this transition occurred, and the white man did this. This was racism. This was not done by Black people, but Black people fell into it because a lot of Black people don't know who they are. But the same time Joe Biden passed his crime bill, where they took all the fathers out of the Black community and started sending so many of them to prison, that was also when hip hop took a turn for the worse. It was almost simultaneous. It's like a light switch hit around 1993, 94, when suddenly, so Joe Biden and Bill Clinton signed the crime bill. They've got all these prisons that they have to fill up. Private prisons are becoming a thing. They got to fill those up. Well, you can't run commercials for prisons. Like, you can't say, hey, our prison is like the Holiday Inn. You should stay at our prison. Don't pick, our prisons are superior to their prisons. Like, right. You can't run an advertisement for a penitentiary. So some argue that hip hop music became the method to advertise prisons for Black men. That's when music really got bad. In the early 90s, you had a variety. You had gangster rap. You had your criminal element, but you also had you had a lot of elements that were very positive. You had X Clan that was rapping about how wonderful it is to be African. You had Tribe Called Quest, who would just rap about whatever, right? Just fun stuff, right? You had all different kinds of music. You had Queen Latifah, who had a song, who you calling a bitch, right? Like in that song, the whole song was all about, UNITY. It was all about, women's unity, and that you don't respect a queen, or don't disrespect a queen, that you don't disrespect a Black woman, right? And people were cool with that, right? But then suddenly music got real bad. Black men were first of all, Black men were encouraged to engage in criminal behavior. Everything was, glorifying like dope dealing, murdering other Black people. I mean, the Klan couldn't have orchestrated this better. I don't know if this was orchestrated by the Klan, but the Klan couldn't have done a better job at exterminating Black people than hip hop music did when it started mass promoting the idea that Black people are better off dead, right? So you had a lot of other messages about like blatant disrespect for women, like just literally. I remember hearing a song. Snoop Dogg and Exhibit did this song. Go listen to the lyrics of the song. I can't remember what the chorus was. Who wanna get involved with us? Right? Go listen to that song. That song was about 2001, 2002, and in the song, there's one part where they rap about I think raping a woman and peeing on her on tape and beating the charge because you're so powerful or whatever, right? Like some R. Kelly type stuff. Go listen to it. I gotta go check the lyrics again, But it was, I remember hearing it and thinking, this is not normal. This is not, who says that this is okay? Right. And so the thing about that is that this has translated into your relationships. That's the point I'm getting to. You have a lot of men who don't know when to draw the line, who don't know when to kind of understand, like, okay, yes, masculinity does dictate a certain type of confidence, a certain level of bravado, right? Like masculinity does require you to have strength. I believe, at least my version of masculinity. When I think of masculinity, for example, I have a lot of admiration for soldiers. My daddy was a soldier. I think soldiers are amazing because soldiers will put their life on the line for something that they believe in. Most people, a lot of your men are not soldiers. They're not willing to put anything on the line for anybody other than themselves, right? And so I think that there's space for that. But also part of masculinity means knowing how to be strong enough to be vulnerable, right? Knowing how to be strong enough to know when to open your heart and when you need to close it. Like for example, I saw two guys that were having a negotiation. It was like in a movie or something, and one guy was really pushing a hard bargain. Like he was really like, basically saying like, fuck you, pay me. Like if you don't do what I say, then I'm gonna come break your legs and take, do whatever. And the other guy goes, "Come on, Jimmy, have a heart." And Jimmy said, he said, "My heart is for my wife and my children. In business, I use my balls and my brains." And I tend to think that way. I don't know if that is something that people agree with or not. I really don't care, because I believe that that's just kind of what masculinity might look like, right? It means kind of not sort of being one thing or the other all the time. So, for example, that man who listens to so much gangster rap and never had a daddy and really thinks that you need to be banging over breakfast, like you need to wake up in the morning with an AK-47 in one hand, with a joint in your lips, with a pound of cocaine in the other hand, and that you always gangster, you always pimping hoes, you always killing niggas, you always living on the edge. Like guys like that are not really men. These are guys that are wimps that are sort of playing a cartoon character, right? Like if you dig deep down into a lot of these guys, honestly, you find like really broken, scared, insecure little boys. You're basically seeing like black male versions of a Donald Trump. Like Donald Trump is like that. Donald Trump, I actually heard somewhere that Donald Trump has a micro penis. I don't know if that's true or not, but that his penis is super small. I can't imagine having to go through life like with that disability. And so a lot of people argue that the way he overcomes that insecurity and that micro penis of his is by being incredibly arrogant, always, always playing the character, right? And what I have found is that real men know that they don't have to play the character, because if you're just a man, you just know you're a man, right? So sometimes I'm a man. I might be a man when I'm bold and audacious, but I'm also a man when I cry, right? I'm a man when I'm fighting in a battle. I'm also a man when I cuddle up in my woman's arms and lay on her lap and just want to recover from the exhaustion of the world, right? I'm a man, when I get up and I go hard for what I want, but I'm also a man, when I'm sitting and reflecting on the sadness of my inner child from maybe things that I experienced when I was young, right? And you've lost that. You don't have that. And the reason you don't have a lot of that, and the reason you have such an onslaught and infection, really, of so many black men who go online so they can attack black women, is because a lot of these men never had a father that showed them what a man actually looks like. They never learned that. They grew up with a single mother that they're pissed off at because their mother maybe was oppressive or spoiled them or whatever. And then maybe they got a couple babies mamas who they feel were gold diggers who took all their money, and they don't know who they are. So they're just kind of going around grabbing onto these false personas of manhood and embracing that as if that is what a man actually does. So that's what I see with the men. Now what I see on the women's side, because I see some real bitter, really broken bag lady, type women. I'm bag lady, like carrying all the baggage in the world. Like you got extra suitcases for all your baggage, like you American Airlines, Delta, and Spirit all rolled into one because you got so much baggage that you've never dealt with. And these are women who, in many cases, not in every case, but many of them have never recovered from the fact that the first man they ever loved broke their heart. And that first man was their daddy. When you talk about Black love in the Black community, you cannot discuss the future of our people and the survival of our people without taking a moment or two or three or 10 or 1,000 to acknowledge the fact that 76% of Black women grow up in a household where the father is not present on a daily basis. Everybody wants to act like that don't matter. Everybody wants to act like, oh, it ain't no big deal. The mommy can be the mommy and the daddy. No, she can't stop it. The mother, give her a Father's Day card. Stop that. That's stupid. Stop that. You're not a dad. You're not. Quit it. Or no. Well, there's studies that show that Black men are more involved with their children than white men are. Yeah, they might be, but a father who's not in the house ain't the same as a father who's in the house. Stop it. I live in the house. I know the difference between when I'm in the house and when I'm down the street. Seriously, stop it. I I will tell you, I have a blended family. I have 3 children in this house, and I talk to their father on a regular basis, who lives down the street. And the amount of engagement that I have with the children is about 1,000 times higher than the father has, who lives down the street. He calls a lot. He takes them when he's supposed to take them. He does everything he's supposed to do. He is the perfect co-parent. Me and him partner extremely well. All right. And it's wonderful for the children. The narrative we give the kids is that you're lucky because you've got 2 great dads who will die to defend you, who will always make sure that you're provided for, who will look out for you, who are both very smart, who will make sure that this family's good. So you are lucky. You've got the bonus dad and you've got your dad. But let me tell you the honest to God truth. My interaction with the kids is far deeper and more consistent than anybody else outside this house. It doesn't mean that he doesn't do his best. It just means that I'm here. Like when you're there in the kid's face and you're waking them up every morning and you're feeding them breakfast every day and you're the one yelling at them when they didn't take out the garbage and you're telling them to go shovel the snow and you're telling them, or you're going on the campus visits for college and you're going to meet with the school teachers and the counselors and all this other stuff. That's a different level. And so what I'm saying to you is that when you have the majority of Black women growing up without their father around, it's gonna have an effect, right? It's gonna have an effect. Now, it doesn't mean that these women are broken beyond repair. It doesn't mean that they're not lovable, right? My God, if you see, here's the thing, right? You got to understand what it means to have loyalty to your people. Loyalty to your people, means you got to take the good shit and the bad. You got to take the Black excellence and you got to take the Black ratchetness to some extent too. Loyalty means that you say, you know what, Black women, gosh, I love y'all so much, but some of y'all crazy and terrible, but some of you are beautiful and magnificent. And so I'm going to take the crazy and terrible along with the beautiful and magnificent and make a pledge to you that while I'm not going to marry all of y'all, I can't marry all of y'all. And some of y'all, I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Some of y'all I'm going to have to love from a distance. But when I choose the woman that I spend my life with, that I give my wealth to, it's going to be a Black woman. It ain't going to be every Black woman. Because some Black women I couldn't imagine marrying. I'd rather have someone impale me with an iron rod and throw me off a bridge into a lake of lava than to marry some of the people that I've seen. I've seen some really disturbed, truly sick, almost homicidal type people that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. So I'm gonna have to love them from a distance. But when I pick the woman that I want, I'm not going to tell you, oh, I love Black people. I love me some Black people. And then show up like, oh, here's my new wife, Virginia. Isn't she beautiful with her blonde hair and blue eyes? Like no, I'm not going to show up with Becky. I'm just not. Like, that's the pledge I made. I made that pledge when I was 16, actually, to myself. And then I told you guys publicly this 15 years ago, before Alicia and I even started dating. I've known Alicia. Alicia and I have been friends for 25 years. She was married a big chunk of the time. But we started dating in 2017. And I told you guys about her, and it was deliberate. Everything it was deliberate. I had another relationship. I didn't tell anybody about it because I didn't. It wasn't something that I wanted to commit to. It wasn't something that I felt was gonna be good for me long term. And you have a right to make that decision, right? So I'm not a person that's gonna necessarily give you blanket assessments that say marriage is always good, or that you should, or tell you that you should always want this and want that. What I'm trying to do is kind of draw a picture of the landscape and encourage you to be honest about some of the bullshit that you see amongst your own people. Like some of this stuff with, some of the stuff where they misidentify women's empowerment as we're gonna basically say that every black man is filled with toxic masculinity. That's stupid. Like, get rid of that, please. Stop that. Or this idea that black women are perfect and that black men are the reason that the black community is failing. No, that's not true. We got some crap. We got some men out here we got to deal with, but black men are not the cause of the black community's problems. And I know that the whole world will join you in a chorus of singing the song "Black Men Are Garbage." Like, if you sit and you just start singing "Black men ain't shit, black men ain't shit," like, you're gonna have the whole world will join you in that song. Like, everyone will agree with you. Yeah, you're right, girl. The reason for your string of broken relationships and baby daddy drama and chaos, it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with your choices. It has nothing to do with who you are as a person. It has nothing to do with your dysfunction. It's all because of the black man. Right? Okay. People will go along with that. People will agree with you, but I'm not going to be that person. I'm the person who says, look, we all have, most of us, particularly due to this white supremacy thing, we all have damage from childhood. A lot of us do. A lot of us have. I mean, how many of you have bullshit baggage that you dealt with that what just wasn't fair? Like, something bad happened. Give me a yes and no in the chat if you've ever gone through something terrible. Like, I don't know, maybe a parent that wasn't there, or maybe low self esteem, or maybe poverty, like you had no money growing up, or maybe you had a cousin that like robbed you or something, or a sister that got a credit card and put it in your name and ruined your credit, or another cousin who borrowed money from you and never paid it back, or just or a relative that tried to kill you with a butcher knife because y'all got in a fight in the kitchen. Like, just the real crazy dysfunctional shit that black people go through. Like, so a lot of us have gone through this, right? So here's the thing. You're not worthless because of what you've gone through and where you are right now. You have value, but for some of us, it's going to take a little more work than others for us to extract that value. You got to get therapy. You got to get some help, man. You need help, because some of y'all are fucking broken and out here fucking running around acting like everybody else is broken but you. No, you might be the number one cause for all the things, or many of the things, that are happening in your life. Did you ever think about that? That maybe you had something to do with the way your life is turning out. You ever think about that? I know that's a novel idea, but perhaps you have something to do with the outcomes of you. I don't know. Maybe that goes over some people's heads, right? And the thing that you have to kind of accept is that, you know, if you don't confront your bullshit, you're never going to get what you want out of life. Whether you're trying to lose weight, or get through college, or or have a good relationship, or start a business, or achieve any other goal in life, you're not going to achieve those goals if you don't confront your nonsense and go get some help. So again, it's going to that one basic idea that 76% of all black women grow up without a father in the house on a daily basis. My belief is that this is part of the reason why you see so many black women that are doing extremely well professionally, but not doing as well as they want when it comes to relationships. And I believe that the reason they're doing so well professionally is because, yeah, when you grow up with that single mother who's like as focused as a soldier on discipline and you doing what you need to do academically, you're going to be a high flyer. You're going to start businesses. You're going to make money. You're going to rise up the corporate ladder. Your life is going to be great. But then at the same time, if you're never receiving any sort of guidance from a father in the house on a daily basis who shows you how to deal with men, then you're not going to know how to deal with men. It doesn't mean that you're flawed. It just means you may not know when men do certain things, when we react certain ways, you might fall in line with white people who say, no, that's toxic masculinity. That's why black men are garbage. And you'll be like, yeah, that's why black men are garbage. What? No, no. Well, if you grew up with a daddy who did the same shit and you saw it and you knew that it was relatively harmless, then you would say, no, my daddy was like that. My daddy would do those things, but he would sometimes he would raise his voice at my mama, but then he would come back and apologize. And that's how men are. You just bake him some cookies and he gonna be all right. Right? Like you don't know how to figure these things out. And when you don't know these things, I think two things have to be done. One, you have to go learn about men. I encourage you, and you have to learn without judgment. That means like read a book. Like there's books. Dr. Barbara DeAngelis has a book about I forgot what the title is. I know the book I read that she wrote was called "What Women Want Men to Know," and it was really fascinating because it taught me a lot about women. Like I read it and I was like, wow, I thought I knew women, but I didn't obviously because now I learned so much stuff I didn't know. And I would call my female friends and say, "Is this really true? Do these things really turn y'all off and turn you on and blah blah blah?" And I'd be like, "So why do why does why do I don't know why do hot mittens and thermometers get you sexually aroused?" Like it would just be some random stuff that made no sense to me. And they'd be like, "Yeah, that does work. Oh yeah, that works." Or no, I hate that. And so you learn, right? So I think that if I was a woman, I would do two things. I would read a book about men and really learn about men from an honest standpoint, right? Without judgment, whatever. And then the other thing I think I would do if I was a young woman is if you have stuff that lingers from childhood, meaning, for example, if you don't respect your father, it's going to be hard for you to respect any man. That's just true. Just like a man who doesn't respect his mother is going to have a hard time respecting women because every woman that disappoints him is going to remind him of his mother. So you probably need some therapy for that, right? So get some therapy for yourself so you can work on yourself so that when you meet that person that's really for you, you're going to show up ready. Like you're going to show up like prepared to be the kind of mate that they need you to be you to be attractive to them, right? If you show up bitter and nasty and broken and torn up, ain't nobody gonna want to be around that. A healthy person is healthy enough to know how to run away from people like that. I know I did. I ran away from a lot of healthy people or unhealthy people when I was single and dating or whatever. The other piece though is so for men, I think that men so not having the fathers in the house, what that did to the women, the thing it did to the women is different from what it did to the men. I believe that what fatherless homes does to the male is the male grows up. That's why the few effects that you see from the little boy who grows up only seeing his mother and only looking up to his mother and emulating his mother to some extent might show itself in a few things. One, you got a lot more men that want to take it up the butt. I'm sorry, no disrespect, but that's true. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Just go to Atlanta. You have a lot of men that really want to put on the high heels and wear a purse. And that's fine, like that's cool, but you can't disconnect that from not having fathers around. Some of the men, some people are just born a certain way, right? That is what it is. But there are some people who, when they talk about this, think about this. They actually, the liberals agree with me on this. Actually, they just don't know that they agree with me. Think about this. They always talk about gender fluidity, right? They always talk about how gender is just a state of mind that you just, you can decide what your gender is, or that you just might feel like you're one thing inside and you might be something else on the outside. Well, that to me says that men and women all have a masculine and feminine energy. And so certain environments can bring out your masculine, certain environments can bring out your feminine. Like if you might take a real feminine woman, but if you put her in a real tough situation, she can learn how to be masculine. Am I right or am I right? Like she can learn how to be tough and strong and whatever, right? If you put her in a certain, like she got to defend her kids, she knows how to become super aggressive, right? Well, the same thing might be true with a lot of these boys that grow up without a father. They grow up, they see their mama putting on makeup. They're like, I want to put on makeup like my mama. Mama's got the high heels. She looks good in the skirt. I want to wear the skirt and high heels like my mama. Your mama hates your daddy and thinks men ain't shit. Well, why would I want to be a man? Because men are terrible. Men are garbage. So I don't want to be a man, right? So it either will show up like that, or maybe if he is heterosexual, it shows up in a type of a type of irresponsibility, if you will. And what do I mean by that? Well, a lot of times the same way, remember earlier I was telling you that a lot of the reason that a lot of black women go on and become high flyers and achieve certain goals is because they're modeling their mother, and they were getting consistent modeling of appropriate behavior from their mother on a daily basis, all day long. They're following their mama around. The mom was telling you what to do. The average mother probably gives 400 instructions per child per day. Like, I don't know what the number is, but literally think about this. Give me a yes or no if you know what I'm talking about. Your mother literally engages with you at least 20 or 30 times a day, just being realistic as far as a real number. And every time she's engaging with you, she's giving you consistent instruction. And that's different from a parent who calls you once a week or that you go see once every 2 weeks. That's not the same, right? She's creating habits within you. Well, the father typically does that with boys, where boys learn manhood and what a man does from constantly getting in engagement and instruction and observation of the father, right? So when the boy doesn't have the father to consistently engage and to sort of observe, he doesn't know what to do sometimes. So again, some of the kids will emulate the mother. Some of the boys are like, I don't want to be a woman, but I don't really know what a man does. So, and then on top of that, sometimes you'll have mothers that will raise their daughters and spoil their sons. Give me a yes or no if you've seen that. Right. So that maybe she feels guilty because the father's not there or whatever. And that's true. I get that. Right. Because in our household, for example, Alicia is a lot more stern with the girls than I am, because I want, because in my mind, they're like daddy's little girls. Like if they come in and they say, and she says, oh, I have a stomach ache, and because I'm on my cycle, I'll be like, oh, you're on your cycle. Okay, you shouldn't have to do anything, right? Right. Where the mother will be like, no, girl, you can still get up and wash them dishes. You better get up. You better take some Advil and keep it moving, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? So that same sex parent tends to push you, right? Well, if the son doesn't have the father there to push him, to say, no, I don't care what your mama said, get your ass out of bed right now and do your homework, right? If the son doesn't have that, then unfortunately, he doesn't become a stern tent pole. He becomes a flimsy little rubber band that will just kind of bend in any direction. The man is supposed to be the tent pole that holds up the tent. The men are strong men, become the backbone and the fabric of a community. That's why your community gets its ass kicked, because you don't have the backbone anymore. Joe Biden and all this other stuff, they killed all of that, right? So the man who's supposed to be the backbone, the tent pole of the community, imagine if the tent pole is made out of rubber. Well, then the tent isn't going to be propped up very high. The tent is not going to be able to withstand a storm. So a lot of your men that were not raised by a tent pole and grow up to become rubber bands, you can't build institutions around that shit. You can't build the institution of family around a flimsy ass, weak ass little man. You can't build something firm off of something that's soft. You cannot build a human body if the spine is made out of rubber. So a lot of your men that run around that don't want to take accountability for anything, that will tell any old lie just to get a piece of ass, that go make babies and don't take care of them, who tell you that women ain't shit but hoes and tricks, who don't want to take any responsibility, who think women are supposed to do everything that men do. Those are the flimsy little rubber bands that don't allow you to build the infrastructure of a strong community. Those moist men become as detrimental to the black community as the KKK. The KKK couldn't do the KKK can't do the level of damage to black children that flimsy black men can do. A flimsy black man can traumatize a child for life. Imagine, think about this. I want you to come with me on this. Try to understand. Even if you disagree, just try to hear me out. Just hear me. That's all I'm asking you to do. Hear me out on this. Has anybody, give me a yes or no, have you ever seen the frustration and sadness of a child who grows up with a father who's a fucking alcoholic? Have you ever seen that? An alcoholic or a drug addict, where the daddy's like, "Hey, I'm gonna pick you up at school today at 3:30," and then the child is waiting at 3:30, 4 o'clock hits, 4:30, 5 o'clock hits, and then the child's eventually got to walk home, or he's the last kid. Everybody feels sorry for him because his daddy didn't even show up. Has anybody ever seen the sadness that occurs with kids with fathers that make promises, in other areas that they don't keep? I'm gonna come, I'm gonna take you to Disneyland on Tuesday, and then they never show up, right? Or fathers who can't come through financially when the kids need something. Like that does something to children. That destroys children. Like that traumatizes them for life. That little girl never knows how to. She can never trust a man for the rest of her life because the man that was supposed to be her original tent pole was a moist little piece of shit rubber band. And so ultimately, the fabric of the family gets destroyed when your men are weak. Well, strong men are typically built by other strong men. That just honestly, that's just the way it tends to be. So when they took away all your fathers, they took away the fabric of your society, the fabric of your community. They took away your tent poles. So now your tent is laying on the ground. You have no structure in your institutions, and you've created this deformity. Like you're literally like that person who says, well, we don't have a tent pole, but we found that tents are more comfortable if you just put it over your head like it's a blanket. Like that's as good of a tent as one actually having a tent pole, right? You learn these really awkward ways to cope with severe dysfunction, and then you start thinking that dysfunction is normalcy. You literally are, and then they market the dysfunction to you because they want you to be dysfunctional. They've been wanting that since slavery. They ain't nothing changed, ain't a damn thing changed. They ain't changed that much. They market the dysfunction to you, and they say, "You go, girl. That dysfunction that you're sitting on, that's exactly the way things are supposed to be." So then you start mocking the functional people. You start mocking the people who say, it's more comfortable to be in a tent when you got a good tent pole because that keeps you much drier, and you can walk around and it's much better. And then you got people who don't have a tent pole who start clowning that, or people who don't want to be a tent pole, like these men that don't want to be that don't want anybody to be able to depend on them or rely on them for anything, who literally somehow act like that's a good thing. And it probably does feel good. It feels good if you engage in what they call pleasure seeking behavior. Like a drug addict. Drug addicts engage in pleasure seeking behavior. Sex addicts, people that just kind of are always looking for a good time. People who don't understand that power tends to come with sacrifice. So pleasure seekers are people who kind of live with a YOLO philosophy. You only live once, right? They kind of believe that you live for the moment. You engage in instant gratification. You do what feels good. It means if she's cute, you go hit that. If you see a Gucci bag, you go spend that, right? If you want to eat some Cheetos and some Popeyes chicken, you eat that, right? People like that, that's that pleasure seeking behavior. Pleasure seeking people don't tend to have much power because power comes with compromised sacrifice. The only way you have a harvest is if you plant seeds, and planting seeds means sacrificing something today so you can have more tomorrow. And actually, when they study which cultures around the world are most successful, and this lady at Yale University did a study on the most successful cultures that have the most successful families, she concluded that the Nigerian culture was the most successful culture on earth because they have strong tent poles. And one of the factors in determining the strength of the culture was the ability to delay gratification. Delayed gratification is something that is embedded into your culture. It is when you simply say that, yeah, you can have a little fun today, but you don't want to have all your fun today. You want to prepare for tomorrow. And so, where does that come into the black family in America, the African American family? When you got a bunch of slinging pleasure seekers, men who just want to go hit it and quit it, want to just go lay down with a woman, fuck the kids, fuck you, fuck the family. I don't care about that. I don't care about responsibility. I don't want any of that. And then you got a bunch of women who are bitter in their own way. To hell with men. Men are garbage. Black men ain't shit. Blah 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 blah. Right? Because your first original tent pole, your daddy disappointed you, so you go through life terrorizing other men and being the predator, pretending to be the victim. You pretend to be the victim, but really you're the predator, right? But you think you're the victim because the white man will always tell you you're the victim because he wants you to go prey on black men, right? So this gender war, this artificially created white supremacist gender war that exists throughout our community, what does that do? Let me explain what that does and why this connects to instant versus delayed gratification. Why pleasure seeking behavior can ultimately be dangerous, the same way a drug addict is a danger to the family. The reason that it destroys black people is because the only way you can have a stronger generation coming up in the only way the next generation could be stronger is if there are investments and sacrifices made by the current generation in order to manifest the power that you seek. The only way our children will be strong is if the adults make a sacrifice. The only way Black people can be strong in the year 2070 is if there are Black people who are willing to engage in selfless sacrifice in the year 2020. Because if all you can do is live for today and all you can do is live for yourself, then no one else can benefit and no future generations can benefit. All things that are good will live and they will die with you. And all your babies mamas, that string of babies mamas and STDs you left along the way, the string of damaged men that you've left along the way because you somehow decided that Black men are all terrible, right? Or just all these horrible things that really come with um, being part of an oppressed community. We as Black people, you've allowed yourselves to be oppressed. You've allowed yourselves to be divided. You've allowed yourselves to be misguided. Because at the end of the day, power, true power, and true independence and freedom, and all these other words that we like to use, these words tend to only belong to people that know how to be adults. And right now on the internet, if I look around, I hear Black people talking. I hear a lot of people, not all of us, but a lot of people that really are 50-year-old teenagers, saying terrible things about women, saying terrible things about men, so concluding that women who have children are just undateable and worthless because their children are worthless. That there's no value in these children, right? They're not mine, so screw them. If it ain't about me, then whatever, right? And so when you see all of this, you can it's easy to understand why your community can't get anything done. It's easy to understand why your men have no power because your men don't know the power of family. They don't know what a great ally you have in your power accumulation process when you have a strong Black woman by your side. Again, an adult understands this. A grown man kind of gets the fact that, hey, shit's a whole lot easier when I have a ride or die Black woman who's super loyal to me, who's going to help me go out here and succeed, who's going to make me look good in front of my colleagues, who's going to love me and nurture me when I come home from battle, who's going to actually help me figure out better ways to solve problems. It's easier to accomplish things that way, right? A little boy only sees women for sex or whatever he sees them for, right? And I think the same thing can be said on the female side. A mature woman understands that, hey, you know what? That having a Black man next to me, it ain't always perfect. It does take work. But having that man there to protect me, that's something I actually enjoy and something I have to admit that maybe sometimes I actually need. Having a man that can help provide and take care of the kids, that our kids are better off because their fathers just so I think I'm going to take some time to tell this Black man I appreciate the fact that he's in this house and that he's here with the children because I do honor him and I do respect and admire him, right? Whoever said that honoring and admiring your man on a regular basis was a bad thing? Like, there's nothing misogynist about, letting a man be a man sometimes. Like, I know we ain't perfect. I know sometimes we say stuff that doesn't make any sense. I go downstairs, I'll sit down, and I'll be sitting on the couch with the remote control watching football all day, and I don't want to get up and wash dishes. And sometimes I'll do some things that get on Alicia's nerves. But the wonderful thing is that the respect is there. The respect is like, well, you're still the man of this house, whether I'm pissed off at you or not. And also, when I am pissed off at you, I'm not gonna let that burn the house down, right? And that is my last piece of advice I would give any young person who really wants to be successful in this fucking thing, like this thing called life, this game of power. If you ever want to be successful and you form relationships with other people, especially romantic relationships, not only should you choose wisely, I mean, really take your time. So many people run around, they dip their dick into anything that moves, and then and then later on you mad because some ratchet ass woman is raising your kids, or you fall for any guy who's got a couple of sweet lines, and next thing you know, you got some stranger in your bed who's infecting you with only God knows what, infecting you with spiritual and physical STDs, and cursing you with miserable children who are upset because their father is a piece of shit, but you might have been able to snuff it out of their protection. You could have protected those kids by snuffing out the fact that he was a piece of shit, by maybe taking your time and not allowing whatever is broken inside of you to make you think that this man has the right to be in your bed and putting his semen inside your body. Seriously, that maybe that's where the therapy steps in, right? The therapy helps us fill those voids so that we learn how to just make decisions that are a little more rational and not simply these impulsive moves, these impulsive pleasure seeking moves that are no different from a drug addict trying to cover up their pain by going to the drug. The drugs ain't just crack and heroin. Sometimes the drug might be sex. The drug might be the soul food. The drug might be, just it might come. Maybe somehow your drug might be toxic behavior of some other form. But I'm just telling you, there's a lot of sick people like in our community that do really sick things, and we've normalized the sickness because the people that tend to get promoted, again, this is white supremacy talking. The white man did this. He did a whole number on y'all, but the white supremacy elevates the sickest people to the top of the food chain. That's why Cardi B, this crazy stripper, who's teaching little girls to sell their vagina for a Gucci bag, is somehow elevated to the position of interviewing Joe Biden when he's running for president, and she's the representative of the black community. Since when did a stripper who used to drug and rape men for money become the representative of your community? Well, this is a reflection of what they think about you. They think you ain't shit. That's why they'll put a Cardi B at the top of the pile and ignore all the black women who are scholars and professors and intelligent people and leaders. And they're going to go for the stripper who used to drug and rape men for money. Are you kidding me right now? But that's the world you live in. That's the type of poison that's being promoted to you. And Cardi B is just a sort of a uniform manifestation. She's a one-dimensional manifestation of something that is much, much bigger. If you go all throughout the space of entertainers and celebrities, people that you admire, people that you look up to, these are absolutely the worst people to be admiring or looking up to. These people are terrible. These people are I saw an article where they were talking about Lee Daniels or something, and I read Lee Daniels' whole bio. I read his history. I do this with everybody. I did it with Obama. I did it with Trump. I did it with all the people that I'm curious about. Kamala Harris. Everybody that's prominent. I like to read where they come from. I like to know, like, who were your parents? How did you get raised? Where did you grow up? What mattered to you when you were in high school and you never thought you were going to run for president? What did you do back then? Like that tells me a lot about who you are as a person, so I can just know what I'm dealing with. So Lee Daniels, I read Lee Daniels' bio. I feel sorry for this man. This is a sick, sick human being. This man is, let me just tell you, give you one sign. This is one of many stories I can tell you about Daniels in terms of things I read to tell you just how sick this man is. And remember, this is what's being promoted to you as black excellence. This is what they're putting out. It's kind of at the top of the pile is like, this is what your children want to be like, right? Lee Daniels had a point in his life where he was so suicidal that he said, I had unprotected sex with as many men as I could so that I could catch HIV. He said he literally, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. I don't think I would make this up in my head. And I want to make sure I double check this just to make sure I'm not making this up. But there was other sick shit in there too. I'm just not going to go through it all because I don't even want to talk about him that much. But literally, so I was like, this man needs help. Like this man needs a whole team of therapists to help him work through his bullshit. Why are you marketing this as something that black people want to become? So this is a tough thing, right? Like I really almost see it like it's like sometimes being black. I don't know if anybody ever feels this way, but sometimes being black. First of all, two things happen to me as a black man. When I look at the internet and look at the world and read what people are saying and stuff like that. One, I feel like I was born on the wrong planet. Sometimes I really look around and say, maybe I was supposed to be born on Jupiter or something because this is crazy. Second thing that happens is that I feel like sometimes I'm in the middle of the zombie apocalypse. And a zombie apocalypse would be like where everybody's become a zombie, and if you get bit, you're going to become a zombie too. So you're constantly fighting, and you're having to chop off the heads of zombies or people that you used to love who become zombies because you're trying to survive. And you're trying to find a safe space of other people who haven't been zombified, who aren't going to infect you with the zombie virus. Well, to me, the zombie virus is basically all forms of black dysfunction. Everything from how we're trained to think, to how we're trained to love each other or not love each other, to to how we're trained to eat, what we're trained to do with our money, how we even study our own history. You know, the zombie virus might just basically be defined as white supremacy, because white supremacy kind of reeks like the dirty hand of white supremacy is in the middle of all of this. They want to keep you dysfunctional because they don't want you to have power. Because once you get power, you rebel. And the number one rule of any oppressive society is to make sure that the oppressed are disorganized and dysfunctional. So they do a pretty good job with that. But for those of you that want to rise outside of that, first thing you got to do is you got to get clean. You got to detox. And detoxing means that all of us, myself included, must go through a process where you cleanse yourself, disinfect yourself of all of the trauma and baggage that you've been forced to carry your whole life. Go see a therapist, man. Or at least if you can't afford that, then watch some YouTube videos on self-improvement, how to deal with trauma, how to deal with jealousy, how to deal, how to just how to have a healthy relationship with other people without getting triggered and fighting people, how to resolve conflict. How about that? How about we learn to resolve conflict? Like, and just little things like that. Detox yourself because you're probably as fucked up as I am. We all are. And I'm the first one to admit, like, sometimes maybe you'll see my trauma pop up where I'll say something that's just stupid. So I take full responsibility and accountability for any stupid thing you've ever heard me say, or something where you might have said, boy, sounds pretty stupid right now. Well, that's probably because I am. That's trauma voice popping up, and I'm working to get him out of my body. Okay. So so I encourage you to find that side of yourself that that gets tempted to say all black men ain't shit, and figure out, like, what's triggering you. What are you referencing? What are you thinking about when you say, oh, there they go, there goes another one of them, right? Or whatever, right? What's happening there, right? Get a therapist to help you work through that. The same thing is true with the men. When you have men that are just angry and scared of women, think about the situations, like, try to pinpoint that. Like, are you do you think all women are gold diggers because your first baby mama took you to child support and then you end up having to go to jail? Are you mad because your mama was on crack and didn't nurture you properly? Are you upset because your daddy wasn't there and you feel like your mama drove him out of the house? Like, what is it that's making you so angry that you feel that beating up on black women is a good thing? What is it inside of you that makes you cheer when you see people bashing black women, right? What is it? What hurt and what pain is causing you to think that that's okay, that makes you feel good? Because here's the thing, I think you can defend yourself without attacking people and beating people up. And I think that's the point that I'm making here, right? And it's a touchy thing. It's a touchy thing because we live in a society of extremes. We don't live in a society that believes in nuance and balance. We have an unbalanced society. So if I say, hey, I believe in defending myself, which means that, if I get harmed by a black woman, on some level, I'm going to deal with that person. I'm going to deal with that situation. I'm going to say, get the hell out of my face. You're a terrible person. And but then some people will say, oh, well, that means Dr. Boyce hates black women. Like, no, that means I don't like that particular black woman. So I think you can have room for that type of subtlety. Like, I don't know. I don't believe every black woman is a queen and every black woman is great and perfect and wonderful. No, I think that there's different varying degrees of what it means to be good and what it means to be bad. And I think that there can be room for that. The same thing is true, on both sides of the fence. But I think really at the end of the day, the big thing that matters for you is, how do you get to where you want to be, right? Only you know what that means for you. Only you know what it means to get to where you want to be, right? So typically what you want to be and where you want to be comes in the form of three key areas. That's health, wealth, and relationships. Health, wealth, and relationships. Those tend to be the three areas where people set goals. Like, if you look at people's New Year's resolutions, it'll be something like, I want to lose weight and make more money, right? And then maybe it's like, I want to get married, or I want to have more sex, whatever. I want to have a better social life, right? Maybe they might throw that in there too. So when you talk about health, what is health? Well, health is pretty much mental and physical health. Those are a couple of the major areas, right? So how do you become mentally healthy? How do you get rid of the stress and the strain that might plague you in your life? How do you get rid of the doubt and fear? How do you get rid of the sadness if you're feeling depression, things like that? There's remedies for that. That's where mental health comes into play. Most successful black people I've noticed, the best black people to get along with, are people who invest heavily in their own mental health. So invest in your mental health as a matter of character. Also, what happens is that when you invest in your mental health, you're better for other people when they meet you. Like, people want to be your fucking friend because you're normal. Like, don't nobody want to be friends with a crazy, traumatized person who's fucking everything up all the time, who's yelling and screaming at the drop of a hat, bipolar, and going off on people, taking people out and screwing people over. And, I'm gonna get you before you get me. I'm gonna get them before they. Like, come on, man. Nobody wants that. People like normal people. Good people like good people. So be a good person, so that when good people identify you, they want to be away with you and not run away from you. But then you go to physical health. Obviously, that's where we get into those ugly conversations, like the one that I had, a few months ago when I was when we talked about the Lizzo thing, and everyone got mad because I said, well, maybe we shouldn't be promoting like obesity to a community that's dying from obesity. Maybe you're sounding like Klansmen right now because you actually want more Black people to die, because you're lying to them and telling them that obesity is body positivity, and whatever record label is paying you to do this. I hate this, because I think you're very talented, Lizzo, but I really kind of need to challenge that, this idea that obesity is body positivity. When I was obese, I didn't think my body was positive. I was fat, and Alicia could love me through my fat. She loved me when I was fat. She loved me when I was thin, but she also encouraged me to get healthier because she cared about me enough to do that. She didn't lie to me and say, "Oh, well, this is great. This is body positivity. Get fatter. Like, the fatter you are, the better you are." No, she didn't do that. And so I think that when you talk about physical health, basic things that you can do with your physical health will really improve your life and your capacity for happiness and well-being. So basic things you can do. Number one, exercise. Everybody should exercise no matter what. Please exercise. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I go running, but I don't really run most of the. I run, half walk, but it's moving and it keeps my weight down. The other thing is, you got to think about what you eat. We've been fed poison, toxic bullshit since we were kids. A lot of us. How many of you grew up on like greasy, fatty food, fried this, soul food that, sugary this, sugary that, and we think it's just normal that Big Mama got her foot cut off from diabetes, or Uncle so and so had a heart attack. Like, we think these things are normal. These things are not normal. These things are not inevitable. These are things that can actually be avoided. So, and the other thing too is that when the things that you eat and you're taking care of your physical health, it affects your mental health. Like, if you're eating bad food, you're not always going to be the most mentally healthy person, right? So then the next step is, when you talk about wealth. Well, we talk about wealth all the time. I'm not going to go into that too much, but basic things like saving and investing your money, planting seeds for the future, financial literacy and education. Um, you know that is in complete contrast to having white people paying 1,000 rappers to tell you that you should blow your welfare check on a Gucci bag, right? Or telling you that you should literally buy 80 pounds of diamonds and put them all around your neck at once, and then get like diamonds in your teeth at the same time, and that you're doing well because you're driving a rented Mercedes. Like that's the craziest stuff. Or that you should go spend all your money on European products and go broke in the process. Like, all this stuff, when you talk about wealth, everything that you're trained to do as a Black person is in complete contradiction to what it takes to actually obtain economic power. There was an Ebony magazine video that was made in the 1950s or 60s called "How to Sell to the Negro," and they made this video because they wanted to teach white people how to get money out of Black people. And so, literally, that video could be played to this day, because a lot of us, even in your Black publications, some of your Black media outlets are working against you, because they will literally, for example, market our 1.4 trillion that we spend every year as Black spending power. That's an inherent contradiction, because there is no power in spending unless you consider that power to be the power that you're giving away to other people. So yeah, so there is power in your dollar when you're giving it away, because the people that you give your dollar to are going to become very powerful. So you're transferring power away from you, and then you wonder why you have no power. Well, you have no power because you gave all your power away. Like, if I have 2 cookies and then I give my cookies away, and then I say, why do I not have any cookies? Somebody's going to say, well, because you had 2 cookies and you gave them away. When you give away cookies, you're going to have fewer cookies than you had when you were keeping your cookies. So, Black people, what I'm saying to you right now is, keep your damn cookies, keep your money, keep your wealth, buy Black, save Black, invest Black, keep your money in your own community, and then your community won't go broke. So every time you see a rapper telling you that life is good because I just bought me a $3,000 Prada bag or whatever the fuck they buy, I don't know what the hell they do with them. It's all stupid. Like then you need to step up and be like, that's dumb. Like what? That doesn't make any sense. That's not black power. That's something else, but that's not black power. Don't let people think that you're empowering yourself by giving all your power away. This is a consistent theme that is constantly pushed to you, and it is the biggest sack of shit that I've ever heard in my life. It's absolute insanity. Insanity. The third piece, I said health, wealth, and relationships. Well, when you get to the point of relationships, the thing that you have to understand is that a lot of your wealth and power comes from your ability or lack thereof to relate to each other. If you can't have healthy relationships, then you will have no wealth, you will have no power. If you look at any other community that has power, they have power because they have codes of conduct. They have relationships that they maintain. You go to an Asian family, the father gets a certain amount of respect no matter what. The elders get respect no matter what. There's a way you contribute to the family no matter what. All this chaos and dysfunction that you see sometimes, not from all of our people, but from some of our people, is not acceptable in powerful cultures. So when you talk about relationships, if you want to have healthy relationships, then you need to learn how to be a healthier person. So the direct advice I would give you is one, there's plenty of resources out here that you can study regularly that will teach you how to be a healthier person and also how to have healthier relationships, how to pick the right man so you ain't dropping your drawers for every guy with a nice penis in a nice car who might also leave you with a nice STD to go with it, right? Yeah, or teaches you how to raise children together where you're not trying to murder each other in front of the kids, right? Or the child doesn't have to grow up, with wondering where daddy's at because daddy and mommy figured out a way to get along. I would suggest when you get into a relationship, if you value that relationship, get you some help, like get you a coach or a counselor or read books together or do something because managing relationships is really hard because you got to fight through all the trauma that you experience and the doubt you experience when you think somebody's hurt you and you maybe your pride kicks in and you don't want to apologize or you're scared because you think that they might be trying to play you or whatever. It's hard to work through all of that, right? And if you're not willing to kind of do that, then you shouldn't be in a relationship. You shouldn't even try to have a relationship if you can't work through your own bullshit and insecurities. Like if you can't do the work to get through that, then don't have a relationship. Just quarantine yourself so that you don't infect anybody with whatever virus that you've been infected with. But if you dive in, then dive in proper, dive in the right way. Remember, I told you that to build families and communities, you need strong backbones. You need strong infrastructure, like a tent. A tent needs a big, strong tent pole that stands tall into the air. You don't have that sort of infrastructure in place without discipline. So this idea, this pleasure seeking that's being promoted to you, that is the exact opposite of what it takes to achieve discipline and power. When a military operation or when an army is able to win a battle, they don't win that battle by letting all the soldiers just run off and do whatever they want. They win the battle through structure and discipline and maintaining hierarchies and relationships. They win battles through defining appropriate behavior and enforcing that among the collective, right? That's how you obtain power. So people who engage in a lot of this pleasure seeking behavior, like I'm just gonna go and sleep with any woman I want, to hell with her kids, I'm gonna go make promises that I don't keep, or this flimsy black male behavior, or the women who don't want to respect men, who just really get caught up in, too deep into white feminism and want to call black men toxic every chance they get or whatever. Like people like that are not ever going to have power because power requires structure and it requires your men and your women to get along. If you cannot do that, if you cannot form healthy families and healthy relationships with each other, then guess what? People will pick and plunder at you until you have nothing left. It's just like in a battle. Whenever there's a military formation, one of the things you have to do is you hold the line. You have to hold the line, which means you have a type of unity amongst all the soldiers on the front line where they maintain their formation. And the goal of the opposing army is to break through your formation. It's to break your line. It's to get somebody to fold, get somebody to buckle, somebody to get scared, somebody to run off, and so that they can break through the lines, and then they know that they got you once they break through your line. Well, black people, you don't really have much of a line. Like, your line was broken a long time ago, and now you just kind of have all this chaos, and then you wonder why you can't really win any battles. So what I'm just trying to say to you is that those of you that want to win battles, some people won't get it. Some people are gonna just, keep saying stupid little wimpy bitchy shit or whatever, terrible things or about black men and black women, and feed into the nonsense. But those of you that actually want to have power, whether it's economic power or any other form of, or political power, whatever the case may be, I encourage you to understand that you have to figure out, like, what's my structure going to be, and what is my sacrifice going to be. What am I going to sacrifice in order to accumulate that power? How am I going to sacrifice in order to accumulate the structure that comes with power? Well, part of that process, the first step in building a sturdy institution, is that you must become a sturdy person. So as a black man, that means that if I decide I'm going to love that black woman, I'm going to be sturdy for her in every way that I possibly can be. I'm going to be sturdy for them kids. If them kids need me, I'm going to be there. If I make a promise, I'm going to keep it. If I make a commitment, I'm going to fight to maintain the commitment, right? If it's time to go out and hustle and make things happen, again, whether it's getting some money or whatever the case may be, I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to follow through on that, right? But also, I would say that being sturdy also requires that you understand how to identify sturdy people. It's not fun to be a sturdy person who wants to build a sturdy relationship when you're not intelligent and foresightful enough to know how to identify sturdy people, right? Because if you're sturdy and you build something and you try to build a sturdy structure with an unsturdy person, then you're not going to have anything that's sturdy at the end. You're going to be disappointed. You're going to be pissed off. You're going to be mad because a person let you down. So choosing the right people to identify with and connect to is very important. So when you're doing business, you do business with sturdy people, not flimsy people, because the wind and the rain is coming and you need a sturdy structure to survive the wind and the rain. When you form a relationship, New Edition used to say, "Tell me, baby, can you stand the rain?" Right? You need to make sure that you pick a woman. If you're a man, you pick a woman that can stand the rain. If you're a woman, you pick a man who can stand the rain. Chances are the men who can stand the rain, the sturdiest men, are the men who typically on average were raised by another sturdy man, because they had another sturdy man who taught them. I'm not saying that men who are not in that category can't become sturdy. Maybe you learn, maybe some of the things I'm sharing with you can help you in that journey, but you're going to have to learn at what it means to be sturdy. So typically a sturdy man was raised by another sturdy man. So when you want to understand how a man operates and functions, kind of pay attention to his father, pay attention to the male role models he looks up to. Let me give you an example. I met a guy who does something similar to what I do, and he does stuff, in the financial space. And he's from the street. He said, yeah, I'm more of a street dude. He had gone to prison and everything else. And one thing he said was, Dr. Boyce, I just want to say that I really respect you. He said, because where I come from, you honor the people that came before you, and I know you helped me, you taught me the game and the economics, and I respect that. And that was an honor, because honestly, the guy is very successful in his own right. And I said, wow, this is great. But you know what he told me by making that statement is that he was trained to be sturdy. He was trained on what it takes to develop socio-political infrastructure. Like there's a way that you develop structure in a community. Like the respect for the OGs is a structural concept that he was taught by another sturdy man. He wasn't taught that, oh man, fuck everybody but me, man. It's just all about me, partner. That's all. No, he didn't come at me like that, right? So what I'm saying to you is that sturdy men tend to be guided and groomed by other sturdy men. So ladies, when you're looking to build a family and you're looking to let a man into your womb and have a child with him, you better learn to value that real estate that's between your legs. Like, you really need to understand the power and the significance of the task that God has blessed you with. God made you a woman and a mother for a very powerful reason. Like literally the survival of the species, the survival of the race is in your hands. And so when you're giving somebody keys to the kingdom, like you're giving a man access to that valuable real estate, you got to really take your time and make sure that you're making a good investment. Like it's like when I invest money, like if I'm going to put down $100,000 on a new business venture, that I'm gonna really take my time and do my due diligence to make sure that I'm not being played for a sucker, right? Because I'm putting my family's money on the line. I'm not gonna go put $100,000 into a business that might turn into a big pile of hot garbage. So I'm gonna do my due diligence. So I think the question you must ask yourself, and I think honestly, just being honest with you, I don't know how this is going to be taken, and maybe some people think this is sexist, but I really think that women have absolutely must do more due diligence than men. I think men should do due diligence for a different reason. Don't get me wrong. We could talk about that. But ladies, I'm just telling you, you get pinned down and stuck with a baby with a unsturdy man. You're creating intergenerational problems that are going to last for the next 50 to 100 years in your family. Like you're literally talking about raising a child in a confusing for them to deal with. Like you're literally sitting there, like you're literally having to explain to this baby why daddy ain't nowhere around. Like that's a terrible place to be. Like that's a terrible feeling to have. And I just encourage you to do your due diligence. Do you get what I'm saying? Give me a yes or no in the chat. Let me know if you can still hear me. Somebody tried to call me on my phone and I had to silence it. And I want to make sure you guys can still hear me okay. Because sometimes the audio goes out. Can you guys hear me? Give me a yes or no if you can hear me. I want to make sure you can hear me. And hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done it yet. Please hit the thumbs up button. Okay, D Ruth says yes. Okay, give me some more yeses so I can make sure you can hear me. Okay, okay, good. All right. So doing that, so when you make that investment in a man, I really encourage you, like don't do what they do on TV. Like on TV, like if you take a lady to Red Lobster and buy her some cheddar biscuits, like she'll just give you like whatever you want, like on TV, or you bring her like a bag of Cheetos and a can of Pepsi, like you in good, or you impress her with a little bit of money, like you get whatever you want. And that's a very crazy thing to do because I know a lot of really terrible men who have lots of money, and if Cardi B has convinced you that vaginas are on sale, that WAP should be on sale for $2.99 a pop. I know a lot of men who can buy a lot of WAP, you know, and I feel sorry for women who don't understand that because I kind of feel like they were kind of misled. But then again, maybe I'm a sexist. Maybe I'm just an old sexist, old fashioned piece of shit man for saying that. Maybe women are supposed to just be slinging their wops around and whatever. And who am I to block you from your happiness? Who am I to tell you that slinging wop isn't gonna fulfill you? And I think that's fine, if that's how you see the world. But what I'm really trying to sort of help you kind of process is processing the gravity of that decision to lay down with another person, right? Um, because I see a lot of people that are sad. I see a lot of people that feel hurt and betrayed, and they feel like, man, I gave this guy all this, I gave him my all, and now I'm sitting here with this baby, and so I think that when I see that, when I see regret, that's what tells me, okay, maybe we could have done things better and done things differently. Also, I see if you've ever been a child, if you grew up without a father that wasn't that with a father that wasn't there, and the pain of that, you might want to look at mama and be like, come on, mom, like, couldn't we have picked like somebody better, like to be my dad? Like, why you got this little raggedy, moist Negro, who's a rubber, flimsy rubber band kind of man? Like, at least give me a sturdy father. So I would just really say in general, with any relationship, the general idea, my general belief is that when you commingle with other people, pick sturdy people, period. Because even if you don't choose to marry a person, or even if things don't work out, it's easier to raise a child with a sturdy person than a non-sturdy person. It's easier to raise a child with a mature person than an immature person. It's easier to raise a child with a disciplined person than with an undisciplined person. even if you're not in the same household. So pick disciplined people, pick sturdy people, pick solid people to participate with. And you have to take time to identify that. Okay, so that's all that's on my mind. I think these conversations are kind of fun. I don't know how anybody else feels about them. I really don't really do them for the world. I do them for the people that actually want to listen, and the people that want to think differently, and people that are looking for solutions. And also, it's a shout out to all the people that are seeing the chaos around them and are not happy with this, who are kind of concerned about it, who are kind of like, this is terrible. Like, this is not life. This is not the way life is supposed to be. And so yeah, so honestly, anybody who doesn't like what I have to say, I mean, um they can take great comfort in knowing that I just don't give a fuck. Yeah, so that's it. So be sturdy, be solid, be smart, and love each other, and learn to love other people better, and become a better person, and then you'll attract better people. So anyway, if you guys have, by the way, if you want to follow me on Twitter, there's my Twitter. Also, the blacklovechannel.com is, we do a lot of relationshipy discussions. We're actually broadcasting on that channel right now. I'm sure, and so you've heard enough from me today to know that I'm probably half crazy, like a lot of us are. And so if you are a fellow crazy person and you want to hear crazy commentary, where I literally will give you a stream of consciousness and tell you exactly what I'm saying, even if it sounds abnormal, then feel free to subscribe to the blacklovechannel.com. And also, it's not completely unscientific. The woman I'm marrying happens to be a couples counselor. So I learn a lot from her. I learn a lot from the little book she reads, and she sees couples on a regular basis. And so I've learned a lot about some of the things that work and don't work, and we'd like to share some of that with you. So feel free to go to the blacklovechannel.com. So thank you for listening. If you could hit the thumbs up button on your way out, I would appreciate that very much. And also, by the way, I saw some young people in here. If you're looking for, I had this thing called Black Keys to Greatness I created, where I literally just give you a blueprint on life. Like it's literally, it could be called like the Dr. Boyce life class, and it's totally free. It did have a fee, but I actually made it 100% free. And basically, it literally is a breakdown of all the things that I practiced in my own life that allowed me to be more successful than most of my friends. And so if you want to go take a look, you can go to blackkeystogreatness.com, and it's, like I said, it's totally free. So here's the URL to greatness. I'm gonna put it on the screen so you can see it. So yeah, so feel free to go there. And that's really for people, and I created all that because it covers everything from how I manage my time to how you deal with haters and adversity, how you can learn how to keep going no matter what's going on around you, how you can, plan your life out in a way that will make you successful. And I think that's important because a lot of our people don't know how to be successful. A lot of young people, because think about it. I mean, how could you be enormously successful when you've been mentored by a bunch of mediocre motherfuckers? Like, mediocre people can't breed success a lot of times, right? So to be successful, I mean, one thing I can tell you is that most successful people do not follow the crowd. Like the way to really be successful is not to just do what everybody else is doing, because the majority of the world is average. So if you want to be above average, if you want to be more successful than most, if you want to be part of the 1% in terms of success, then you got to do things that 99% of all people won't do. So that's why I actually embrace my abnormality. I know that I'm weird. I'm okay with that. And because being weird has allowed me to be one of the most successful scholars in the history of this country. So anybody who thinks that I'm a little too weird, I just say fuck you and keep going. So go be weird. Be weird. Don't be normal unless you want to be normal. Right? Be abnormal. Be extreme. Go hard. Do your best. Be better, be more disciplined, and then you'll be more successful. So there's the URL. I hope you get what I'm saying. Have a good day, everybody. Love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Peace.